So exactly 1 year and 2 months ago, I installed this SEICANE Android head unit into my daily driven Suzuki S64. And since this is my daily driver, I have been using this thing pretty much on a daily basis. Now, today's a really hot day, so I might be sweating, and don't mind this weird sunshade right here. I put it there so we don't have a huge glare on the screen, as you can actually see the screen of the head unit. Now, what I want to do today is make a video that's going to talk about all the details of how this thing was performing during the past year and how I'm satisfied with it. I decided to make this video because on my initial video back from 1 year and 2 months ago, when I got this thing, I did a install and review video. And in that video, in the comment section, months later, even a year later, people are still asking me, how is this thing holding up? Is it still working? Did it break during, the year? Is it still alive, basically? Because that sort of question actually makes sense, because let's be honest, SEICANE is, number one, not a really famous brand. It's a Chinese brand, and when you take into account that what the head units that they make actually offer, I mean, the list of features is too long to mention it. So when you think about what they offer, the price looks pretty cheap, and cheap things usually don't work well. So people are actually tempted probably to buy this thing because it's, let's face it, it's cool, but they're afraid, they might be wasting their money and this thing might break after a month or two. Now, so that's why I want to make that video. Now, to answer the question really quickly, yes, it still works. It works just as well as on the first day. Nothing has broken, so it works. Now, the answer isn't that simple because there's a lot more to it, and I want to go in depth into how this thing was performing over the past year and how I'm satisfied with it, what I like and what I don't like. Today we won't be covering anything when it comes to the install and the review. If you want to see that, the first video of this thing is in the description, and you can also click on the suggested videos. So let's dig deep into this thing and see how it was performing during the past year. So Bluetooth is actually the option, the feature of the head unit that I use by far the most. It's super convenient because all the music from your smartphone is right there on your head unit. You just sit in your car and you basically play it. Now, my smartphone is actually a pretty cheap, low-level smartphone, which is a Sony Xperia XA, and I really had almost zero problems connecting and pairing with this thing on Bluetooth. Over the course of the year, I lost connection to the Bluetooth only twice, and the fix was super simple. All you basically got to do is enable airplane mode, and when you disable airplane mode again after 5 or 10 seconds, the connection is restored, the Bluetooth connection is restored, and the phone maintains the connection to the head unit. So as you can see, you can play your music from the phone, and so my song is kind of slow to start. Let's just do that. Or you can switch songs on the head unit itself. It does have a tiny little lag when stopping and switching songs, on the head unit itself, maybe like half a second lag, and honestly it's nothing major. It doesn't bother me at all. Now, that's the story with my phone, but not all phones connect to this thing perfectly. For example, my wife's phone, which is a LG G6 Plus, takes about 5 to 10 minutes to connect, and sometimes even longer. We're thinking that when two phones enter the car at the same time, it doesn't know which one to pair with, so it maybe gets confused a bit, because she did have better luck pairing when my phone wasn't in the car. But even in that case, it would still take a bit longer to pair than my phone for some reason. Almost all major brand phones from friends and family would pair instantly without any issues, just like my Sony phone. Although I did have a friend with an Alcatel smartphone that couldn't pair with this thing at all for some reason. And I had a friend with an HTC smartphone that could pair with this thing, but it would lose the connection relatively soon. The airplane mode fix worked with that phone, but it would again lose connection after 15 to 20 minutes. So Bluetooth with my phone and most phones works perfectly, but there are some tiny exceptions where there has been some trouble with Bluetooth. So next up is navigation. Now, I don't use navigation in general that often because I mostly drive around town, and when I do travel further, abroad in this car, I don't really use the navigation of this thing, and I'll tell you why. The navigation on the SEICANE definitely works. It works okay. It's okay. But what I did find to work better is actually the navigation on my phone, because it's marginally faster. It's easier to access, favorite occasions, occasion history and stuff like that on the phone. It's also easier and faster to type addresses. The touchscreen on this thing, it's really good, it's really accurate, but still, you have to be honest, a phone is faster. Now, there is fortunately a really nice workaround, because you want your navigation on this. The screen is much bigger. It's much better to look, at maps on this than on this tiny screen on some little mount. And also you get to hear navigation voice on your car's speaker. So this thing is definitely, got the phone beat when it comes to those two. So the workaround is to use MirrorLink. Now this thing comes equipped with MirrorLink, and what it is, it basically allows you to cast or to share your phone's screen on this thing's screen, and you can even control things on your phone screen. So I found MirrorLink to be flawless with my phone, even with a few other phones. It worked really well. This is the one feature that's pretty useful. It's actually more useful, than some of the features of the navigation itself that are, heavily advertised. MirrorLink is super useful. So what I do is I actually access navigation on my phone, do MirrorLink on the screen, and then use navigation that way. I get the phone's speed, and I get the slightly better also GPS signal on the phone, but I do get the big screen, and I do get the sound on the speakers. So whichever way you choose to use it, you can use Google Maps directly on this thing. You can download any sort of navigation map you want on it, but I think this thing simply doesn't have the processing power of a modern smartphone, and sometimes the maps will lag. It's not really often. It happens once every a couple of hours of driving. To be honest, the navigation is pretty smooth, but again, the phone does it better. And in my opinion, MirrorLink with this thing and navigation on the phone is by far the best of both worlds, and I have been, to be honest, really satisfied with that sort of approach to navigation. So this thing really likes to collect dust. I know this sounds like nitpicking, but it really does pick up a lot of dust. Now, I don't know whether that's because the screen is pretty big or there's a lot of static or something, but it does pick up a lot of dust, and you will want to have a little pack of screen wipes in your car for this thing if you want to keep it looking, clean and sleek. Now, the dust actually influences another thing, and that's your hands-free call quality. Now, in the beginning, when I talked over the hands-free feature with this thing, basically you connect your phone to the Bluetooth and you can make calls and talk to people, without lifting your hands from the steering wheel. Okay, everybody knows what's hands-free. I shouldn't really explain this. It's the 21st century. So yeah, hands-free. Now, in the beginning, I was really happy with the call quality, with the sound, with the voice quality over hands-free. I could hear people really well, and they could hear me really well, so it was all cool. But after a few months, I realized that I could still hear people really well, but they couldn't hear me anymore. The call quality was actually deteriorating. Now, I couldn't figure it why was it happening. I thought the unit was just cheap garbage and that the microphone started failing. But that wasn't the case. What I realized was happening is when I was cleaning the dust off the thing, I was actually cramming dust into the little microphone hole, because it's right there, it's right on the surface of the screen, and it's really easy to get dust in there when you're cleaning it. So after I figured that out, I puffed in some air, blowing some air into the microphone hole, and my call quality, was restored. People could again hear me just fine. So just a little thing to be aware if you decide to get one of these, or if you already have one and are wondering why people can't hear you anywhere anymore through the microphone. So just blow some air in there and it should be good as new again. So after Bluetooth, I think that the way this thing makes your interior feel more upmarket is definitely the biggest advantage of this thing. Now, anyone who sat in this car during the past year and 2 months was really impressed by this thing, especially people who knew what the car looked like before and what the old head unit looked like, and what the limited features it had. So even when I don't use it at all, I honestly I feel a lot nicer sitting and driving around, in this car, because it simply looks more upmarket now. It looks a lot more special, a lot more expensive, and I feel like it's a lot more modern, vehicle than it really is. This is a 2007 car, so it's 12 years old now. And when you install this thing, you really, make the car feel a lot younger. And what's really important is basically whatever you spend to buy this thing, you will likely make it back when you decide to sell this car, because it will improve the resale value of your car. Let's face it, when I put this thing up for sale and when people come and check out the car, they're going to be impressed by this thing, because I have seen this firsthand. People are impressed by this thing. They see a normal car and they come in and, whoosh, it's so much better than I thought. So when people come to see the car, to buy it, they will see this thing, and it will make my Suzuki stand out basically from, any other Suzuki that's going to be, on the market for sale at that time. So definitely something to think about, and definitely a major advantage. And what really helps is that this thing is really made well. I'm really impressed with that. Probably one of the most impressive things to me, because I didn't expect it to fit this perfectly. The fit and finish is spotless. I have nothing to say about that. And what also really helps is that there are absolutely no, cheesy or tacky, shiny logos, something stupid that will make this thing look cheap. There's none of that. And this thing looks like it came like this right out of the factory. So another really nice advantage that I have experienced, with this thing over the course of a year, is that it's great for passing time on the long trips, also in traffic jams, at border crossings, and other similar situations when you spend a lot of time, in your car, and we can get easily bored. It's really fun when you have more people in the car on the long trips, and given enough time, people really like connecting to this thing, connecting to the Bluetooth, playing their music, or even using the mirroring, and showing off their images and videos and stuff like that. It really makes it elegant and nice. You don't have to, shove the phone into people's faces anymore, oh, look at this video I recorded yesterday in the bathroom, whatever. You don't have to do that anymore. This really makes it nice and elegant, and and it basically improves the atmosphere in the car and makes it more fun to travel. Now, what has to be said is that you cannot play this videos directly from this thing when you're moving the car, when the car is basically, when it isn't stationary. And that is a very smart safety feature, because when you're driving, you want to drive and not look at videos. But don't worry, you can still entertain teenagers in the passenger seat or your kids in the back, because when they connect to mirroring, to this thing, they can play videos from their phone. It will not stop mirroring from playing videos, but you cannot play videos directly when you're traveling. Of course, that being said, but it goes without saying, but please be safe when you're using this thing. Keep your eyes on the road, be safe, do not crash, because you have an Android hand unit in your car, so be responsible. That being said, again, it's really great for long trips, super fun. So over the course of a year of owning this thing, I have realized something, and that's that I could have likely gone for a cheaper, simpler unit with less features than this one. Now, why is that? Well, I'm not really a tech-oriented person. I don't like to spend hours downloading different apps and playing with software. I prefer hardware over software. I prefer, bolting down bolts, and stuff like that instead of apps. But that's just me. And if you like apps and things like that, then this one full of features might be right for you. For me, I think I could have gone with a less feature-packed unit, because this thing can do so much more than what I'm using it for. For example, you could connect, rear view and frontal cameras to this thing, and have it display, the video, the image when you're parking your car. So I never did that, although I could have done it, but I can park my car just fine without a camera. Thank you. There's a million other features you could do with this thing. You could basically access the Play Store and download, whatever kind of app you want and play around with this thing. You want to check out dating profiles from your car, sure, you can do that. Want to play games, sure. But I mean, why would you want that in your car? I mean, you have your phone basically for most of that stuff. But again, it could be really fun for someone who enjoys that kind of stuff. Again, the camera stuff, if you do have a big ass SUV with poor visibility, like most cars are like that nowadays, again, good idea. You can get rear view and frontal cameras and the whole camera parking system, for a lot less money than it would cost you to get it, OEM. So yeah, max potential, I don't think I have realized the max potential of this thing. So what I'm basically trying to say is, before you decide which one to pick up, make sure you know yourself and your preferences, and maybe you could, make a slightly better choice than I did, and maybe get one that doesn't have all the features that you really won't be using. That being said, this thing is still cool and pretty useful, and even with only with the features I'm using, I'm still really happy with it. But that being said, again, I could have gone for a cheaper, simpler one and still get the same awesome interior effect and Bluetooth and the other basic stuff that I really need. So 1 year and 2 months later, this thing definitely still works. And I have to be honest with you, I did expect some major bugs, some much bigger flaws over the course of a year, but there were none. So this thing is actually a positive surprise, a exception to the rule that cheap Chinese stuff doesn't work and fails. I did own some things like that break down really quickly and are a disappointment and turn out to be expensive, because after they break down, then you have to buy the really good thing again, so you waste more money by buying something cheap. Actually, now this thing wasn't like that, to be honest. So would I give it a 10 out of 10? No, there are some things that could be improved, definitely, but there is nothing major that diminishes the usability of this thing. So I would give it a healthy, a strong 9 out of 10. I use it daily, it doesn't have any major flaws, it doesn't break down, and I'm happy with it. So all that taken into consideration, I definitely have to say, thumbs up, SEICANE, yay, you did a good job. So I guess to wrap it up, that's pretty much it when it comes to the 1 year later update of this thing. If I don't sell this car in a year, I might do a 2-year update. We'll see if it still works 2 years later. That would be fun. If I do sell it, sorry, I won't have it anymore. Maybe I will likely buy one for my other daily driver if it doesn't come with something like this already from the factory. If it comes with some lame, boring head unit, I would definitely pick up one of these again, because it really does improve the car. So I guess that's pretty much it. If you feel like I missed something, if you're interested in something particular or specific that I haven't mentioned in the video, feel free to ask me in the comment section whatever you want about this thing, and I'll be sure to answer it. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you soon with more fun and useful stuff on the D4A channel.